There are stories that feel too strange to be true. And then there are stories like this one. A story that sounds almost unreal at first, until you realize every detail lines up with the records, the reports, and the witness statements. This is the case of Elena Povelyaikina, a young woman from a small village in Russia who was eventually convicted of 2 brutal killings. On the surface, she looked ordinary, young, quiet, a student, a daughter. Nothing about her appearance suggested what was waiting underneath. But to understand how it all happened, you have to go back to the beginning. Elena was born in 1998 in the village of Mikhailovka in the Omsk region. Her father, Pyotr Povelyaikin, was a farmer with a difficult temper. In the village, people described him as the kind of man you did not argue with. He was harsh, explosive, and used force to get what he wanted. Her mother was the opposite, quiet, gentle, and long-suffering. For years, she endured the violence at home. According to neighbors, Pyotr had chased her with an axe more than once. She would run to nearby houses, hide wherever she could, and then return after he came back with flowers and apologies. And she always returned. That pattern went on for years. Then, in 2012, when Elena was 14, her mother finally disappeared. One day she was simply gone. She packed her things, left while Pyotr was working in the field, changed her phone number, and never came back to Mikhailovka again. She also cut off contact with her children. After that, Elena stayed in the house with her father and older brother, Valery, and that was when people began noticing that she was changing. As a child, she was still manageable. She studied without major problems, but as time passed, her personality hardened. Anger, resentment, and aggression became more visible. Pyotr raised her in the way he knew how. Sports, boxing, volleyball, hard labor, no weakness. Elena became physically strong, even though she was not tall. She could fight boys bigger than herself, and she usually won. People in the village described her as sharp, direct, and completely unwilling to tolerate disrespect. She did not choose her words carefully. She usually chose her fists instead. And through all of it, her father remained the one person she trusted completely. After her mother left, Pyotr became everything to her: father, mother, protector, and emotional anchor. She idolized him. If anyone insulted him, she took it personally. After finishing school, Pyotr insisted that she go to college in Omsk and study to become a veterinary technician. He wanted her to have a profession and a life outside the village. And she did finish college, earning her diploma in 2019. But she did not stay in Omsk. By then her father's health was failing, the farm was falling apart, and Elena kept coming home on weekends to handle the problems. Eventually she moved back for good. When Elena returned to Mikhailovka, she was no longer just Pyotr's daughter. On the farm, she became the one who kept order, and she did it in a way that made grown men avoid arguing with her. The family farm employed several workers: local men, seasonal workers, and people passing through. Elena quickly became the person everyone answered to. If you worked badly, you got hit. If you were late, you got hit. If you talked back, you got hit. The village gave her a nickname: the Overseer. Some people respected her for being tough and efficient, but respect was always mixed with fear. She was small, but strong enough to frighten people much bigger than herself. By the end of 2019, she had become even more aggressive, and alcohol had become a regular part of her life. The first killing happened on August 19, 2019. That evening, a group of workers and neighbors gathered in an outbuilding near the Povelyakin house, a place used for drinking, talking, and unwinding after work. Among them was Sergei Viktorov, a 37-year-old farmhand who also worked as a shepherd. He was married, had 2 children, suffered from epilepsy, and was known as a quiet, harmless man. According to Elena's later statement, Sergei irritated her throughout the evening. No one knows exactly why. Maybe he said the wrong thing. Maybe he laughed at the wrong moment. Maybe his very presence annoyed her. By around 3 a.m., everyone was ready to leave except Sergei, who was too drunk to stand. That was when something in Elena snapped. She attacked him with her hands and feet, striking his head, torso, and face. He suffered multiple broken ribs, a ruptured liver, and a ruptured spleen. Those injuries were fatal. After he lost consciousness, Elena committed a sexual act against him, using a shovel handle. Then she took photos beside his body and sent them into local village chats with a message along the lines of, "This is what happens to people who do not listen to me," followed by laughing emojis. When she realized Sergei was no longer breathing, she tried to clean up. She put the body in a garden cart, moved it about 200 meters away, and left it near a tree to make it look like he had simply fallen or passed out there. Then she returned and tried to wash away the blood. The next morning, a local woman found Sergei's body near the tree. At first, people thought it might have been an accident. He had epilepsy, he drank, maybe he had fallen, but the autopsy showed otherwise. The official cause of death was internal bleeding from severe injuries. Soon, the photos Elena had sent started circulating through the village. At that point, many people understood what had really happened, but no one went to the police. Why? Because people were afraid of Elena, and they were even more afraid of her father. When the police questioned villagers, almost no one spoke. There were no direct witnesses willing to testify, and the case nearly died there.
2 months later, Elena killed again.
On October 16, 2019, another drinking gathering took place in the same outbuilding near the Povelyaikina farm. This time, one of the guests was Igor Ivanovich Kozlov, a 31-year-old Belarusian man working in the Omsk region. He repaired equipment on the farm and planned to stay only long enough to earn some money before leaving. During the evening, the conversation turned to Elena's father. That was a dangerous subject, and Igor, not fully understanding the local dynamics, made a careless comment, something critical or mocking. For Elena, that was enough. Witnesses later said she seemed to lose control completely. She attacked him suddenly and violently, hitting him with her hands, feet, and a chair. According to the investigation, she struck him at least 38 times. People in the room tried to stop her verbally, but they were afraid to touch her. When she finally stopped, Igor was lying on the floor unconscious. No one called an ambulance. People were drunk, confused, and frightened. They assumed he would wake up. He did not. Igor died the next day from a traumatic brain injury and suffocation. This time, the village could not stay silent any longer. The second death made it impossible to explain everything away as an accident. Police reopened the first case and connected both incidents. Witnesses began talking. Gradually, the full picture emerged. The photos from the first killing resurfaced, and investigators were able to piece together what had happened. Elena was detained on October 17, 2019, at around 2 p.m. She did not resist. At first she was calm, almost detached. During a 5-hour interrogation, she gave full confessions for both killings. But after her lawyers arrived, she withdrew her statements and claimed she had been pressured by police and acted in self-defense. That defense did not hold. There was too much evidence. Her biological traces on Igor's body, blood in the outbuilding, the garden cart near the house, witness statements, and the photos she had sent herself. A psychiatric evaluation found her fully sane. No mental illness was diagnosed. Alcohol was present in her system, but intoxication does not remove responsibility. Elena initially wanted a jury trial, likely hoping that her appearance might influence ordinary people, but she changed her mind. She knew the local residents already understood her reputation, so the case was heard by a judge alone, in a closed session. At trial, she remained calm and distant. She did not cry. She did not apologize. She denied everything. Her final words were, "I sympathize with the families of the dead, but I am not guilty." On August 7, 2020, the Sergatsky District Court sentenced Elena Povelyaikina to 13 years in a general regime prison colony for grievous bodily harm resulting in death and violent sexual acts. Her appeal was rejected. According to official information, she is currently serving her sentence in a women's penal colony in Tyumen. She may be eligible for parole no earlier than August 2029, after serving at least 2/3 of her sentence. Why this happened? This was not the story of one random outburst. It was the result of years of violence, silence, fear, and normalization. Elena grew up in a home where force was treated as a solution. Her father ruled through intimidation, and that became her model for behavior. Then her mother disappeared, leaving behind a damaged family dynamic and a daughter who tied her identity entirely to her father. As Elena became more aggressive, the village did not stop her. People saw what was happening, but they stayed quiet, and silence gave her room to escalate. Alcohol made things worse, but it was not the root cause. The root cause was a long chain of unresolved abuse, lack of intervention, and fear of consequences. Could it have been prevented? Probably yes. If someone had spoken after the first killing, the second might never have happened. If the village had intervened earlier, or if the abuse at home had been taken seriously years before, the outcome could have been different. The most disturbing part of this case is not just what Elena did, it is how many people saw the warning signs and still did nothing until it was too late.